Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Search for Less demo. We're going to get started now in a couple of seconds. We'll wait to see if any more participants join the meeting. Right, so it's been a couple of years since we did a full demo of Search for Less to KPMG staff. So a lot of features have changed on the site since the last webinar. So we're going to go through, I suppose, one of the key facets of Search for Less and how it works. And we'll do that very quickly because the assumption is you all have used this feature every day. And then we'll walk through some of the new features that we've added and some use cases that might be useful to you guys every day as you use the site. So the first thing I'm going to do is log in here. And one of the key things with Search for Less is we combine names and places and dates to try and get more relevant searches. So for example, if I start with Cork and put in 2018, it gives me a list of everything that's happened in Cork so far this year. And if I click on normal here on the left-hand side, I can see these are all the companies that have set up in Cork so far this year. You can see the company type, you can see the address, and so on and so forth. So for example, if I click on companies limited by guarantee, I can see here are 5 companies that have set up in Cork this year and have set up a constitution as a company limited by guarantee, and then I can further click into that particular company and see the details behind that. Moving on then, if I type in a date, so for example, if I look at Dennis O'Brien, which is a reasonably common name, and if I put in his date of birth, so the guy I'm looking for is the 3rd director here, and it's the 19th of April. So if I put in the 19th of April, it'll distill the search down for me to 13 records. And again, I can see my guy was born in the 50s. So there's 12 different entries on the company's after register for that particular person. I'm able to get to that in a couple of clicks. So the essence of Search for Less is that if you combine a name or a place or a date together, you'll get more relevant results to what you're probably looking for, the way we've set up the site. And that's the kind of rule of thumb that we would apply to all searches and recommend all users use when they're trying to narrow down the search results. And that will become fairly relevant as we go through the rest of the demo and some of the changes that have taken place on the site since we last did the webinar. So if we start with a company that, I suppose under company law, anything that can happen to a company has happened to Aircom at one point or another, so it's a good company to demonstrate. In that regard, one of the common things that happens with companies is they change their name. And Search for Less has this built-in feature that if you're looking for a company and you're not quite sure, you're not aware that it has changed its name, it doesn't matter. So for example, if I know Board Telecom Éireann exists and I haven't been made aware that they have become Aircom, I can see that Aircom is the second hit there. So sometimes you might be looking for something and you might get a result that you weren't expecting. And the reason for that is most likely that they've changed their name. Search for Less will check all previous names for a company when it does its search. So it tries again, get you back the most relevant results. So here we now have learned that Aircom have changed their name. If I go into Aircom here, I can click on the first one there, and that's the company that I'm interested in. So the information is served up in real time, so it takes a couple of moments for it to come back there, and you can see we have a notification here that an examiner has been appointed, and anything that has happened under a company law to the company will just pop up there as kind of a warning, and it disappears as soon as you go into the company itself. There's 2 key views on Search for Less, and I'll just take a moment to explain why we did that. This view is known as a timeline view, and it allows you to see what's happening within the company as it happens. not necessarily as it's filed in the CRO, but as the effective date comes up. So it's kind of a useful feature to use if you're just looking for a quick snippet of information. So for example, if you're aware something happened in 2012, you can just click on 2012 there, and it'll bring you all the filings for 2012. I'll just use that little jump to feature at the top of the screen there to do that. That's one of the new features that we added following feedback from our clients. So as soon as you scroll down, that jump to toggle comes on, and I can go to any particular year in question and see all the filings for that particular year. You can see the change in directors there as well. And again, that's another useful feature on the site, that if you're looking for a particular resignation of a director or the appointment of a director, you don't actually have to fish out the B10. You can see in the face of the report here that information is all held there. So we go back to the top again. So that's what the timeline view is. Timeline view will also aggregate any information that we have on that company in relation to all publicly available information, not just company's office information. So you can see here, we've got the business names coming in there. So Aircom recently registered the business name Irish Text Relay Service. In addition to that, when Aircom rebranded, they started to register business names with the preface Air in them. So well in advance, they announced that rebranding in September 2015, but we knew in July that that was likely to be what they were going to rebrand as Air Sport, Air News, and so on and so forth. So useful tool there. We were getting those alerts primarily because we had Aircom on our watch list. And to add a company to your watch list, you just go into the toggle here, the little toolbox here, and you add the company to your watch list by clicking this button here. It's on my watch list, so I get a remove option rather than an add option. Some of the useful features then on the timeline view on the left-hand side here, you can see this judgments. This is where Air have successfully secured a high court judgment against persons for not paying their phone bill, and that's all split out there. So at the moment, there's 3,622 judgments registered against persons there. That information is held within the timeline view. Then if we click over to the category view, we can see there's two types of view here. We've got the CRO style layout, and we've got the search for less style layout. So the search for less style layout gives you the same information that's in the timeline, and it gives you all the historical information as well. The CRO style layout gives you everything that's filed within the CRO at this point in time and what's relevant to that particular company. It doesn't deal with historical information at all. So if I look at the search for less style layout, we'll see a couple of new features that we've added to the site. As we go down the page here, we can see company officers. So the current listing has every company officer that ever served within Aircom. I can click current officers, and I can click previous officers, or I can click all officers. So that toggle is there. And that toggle animates when there's relevant information on the page. So if I go to charges, mortgage and charges, I can see fully satisfied, I can see partially satisfied, I can see unsatisfied only, and I can see all charges again. So that gives you, if you're involved in a share purchase transaction or a refinance transaction, you can see the only charges that are probably going to be relevant to you are the unsatisfied charges, and the system will actually distill them down for you quite easily there. Equally, we've done a lot of work with the document filter section. So you can see your submission documents here. If I click on this document filter section, I can see all the documents are categorized based on their filing type. So for example, I can sort I can tag all of the change in directors here, and that will give me the 134 documents, and I can download those documents, or I can share those documents with colleagues or clients or whatever. And that's a useful feature that allows you to tag those quite quickly. So for example, if I wanted to download all of the account details for Aircom, click on tag, they're all there, and I can download them. Equally, I can just hit sort there, and I can just put them up on the page, and I can see, well, the most, the oldest accounts there are not registered or scanned by the CRO, they're registered, not scanned. So I can tag all of those and download them. And I can do that with, you know, if I want all the B1s and if I want all the account details. So I want all the B1s and I want all the account details as well. There we go. I can just download those in bundles and have that information at my fingertips. So all of the headings that become animated there with this cog, they're the ones that can be filtered using the click there. Now, if I go back into this cog up here, this is the main cog on the page. I've got different types of reports here that I can click on. So if I click on the company's report, this is the CRO report that we would get in real time from the CRO if we were downloading it directly from their website. So you can see that's the full CRO, and it has the same headings that the CRO has. So that's a standard report that you get from the CRO. It only has current information, so it's not going to have any information, historical information about the company. The Search for Less report here has all the historical information. So if I click on that, it'll download that particular report for me as well. And it's similar information, similar headings. There's a few additional headings here, like the judgments, the business names that the company owns, and so on and so forth. If I click over to this menu here, I can see we have a couple of new features under the watch list. And these are fairly useful to users. So some users don't like to receive alerts on their watch list unless document has been scanned. So you can save that setting. We've got 4 options here that relate to that. So we can see, if we click on this one and hit save, we'll only receive a notification when the document is received by the CRO, when it's scanned by the CRO, when it's either scanned or received, or we don't ever want to get notified. So I can switch off document submissions, and I'll only get notified if officers change or if something changes to the company details, a name change or something like that. So a lot of people like to just get it when it's scanned because that indicates that it's been registered by the CRO. You can also specify whether notifications regarding changes in company's business status should be allowed. So this is where you might not want to be alerted if a company status has changed. Not sure why you wouldn't want to know that, but somebody has clearly asked us to put that particular feature in. If it's something that you have a lot of status updates, or it might be something that you want to enable just to declutter your alert system. The next one then is we can filter the alerts by document type. So we might be only interested, for example, in SAP 204s being filed as a new piece of the legislation. So in this regard, I don't need to be updated of a specific requirement to monitor how SAP 204 declarations are being filed within the company's office and how other firms might be dealing with those particular declarations. So you get an alert every time one is filed, and you can do that by document type. I can see all the B10s for a change in director. So I can distill that down. A couple of use cases there we're aware of. People have used it for cross-border transactions where they've been able to kind of map out all the cross-border mergers that are taking place and to build out reports in respect of that. In addition to this, we've got a watch list search that watches addresses. So again, we can select our county here. So I want to watch a particular address. Let's say in fact, I know we have a couple of participants from Cork, so we'll focus on Cork. I want to watch all addresses in South Mall. And I can put in numbers here. So I can put in 23, 24, 25, and it will look for all of those numbers in the South Mall and Cork. And I can click both. What that will do is it will alert me to any companies that are incorporating along the South Mall, or that are changing their address from the South Mall, or that are becoming dissolved on the South Mall. So that's quite a useful feature if you were targeting certain addresses to see, well, what's going on a particular address, and it allows you to get a daily stream of activity that's going on at specific addresses. South Mall is probably a good one in that there's quite a few businesses around there that are active in that space. If we go over to the icons up here, the different icons, we've got Irish document search. I want to show you that particular document search now. So if we go back to the SAP 204 example I gave you earlier on, there's a nice way to go in to understand what's going on in the entire market and not just within your own customer base. So if I select a document type here, and if I type in SAP 204 declaration, here I go. This is every single SAP 204 that's been registered with the CRO. There's 416 matches since the new act came in. And I can see here that this particular one is already registered and scanned. I can see that by clicking on it's received, it's gone to registered. So if I click on the submission number here, that will actually pull up that document for me. And I can see how the legislation has been interpreted for that particular declaration. In terms of the submission number as well, I can go back out and I can grab this submission number here. I can just search by submission number, and it will pull back that particular submission. So if you're interested in seeing where a CRO is with a submission that you've sent, if you have the submission number, you can just go into search for less, pop in the submission number, and you can see the status of that particular submission. They're using that search feature, which I hope you find useful. A couple of interesting things there. There's all the court orders that have ever been registered with the CRO, see what companies are involved. And then if I want to click on a particular company, I can click on that link and it will bring me back out to that company's timeline or category view, depending on where I last left off. In addition to that, one of the new features that we have introduced to the site, which we think is very, very powerful at the moment for users, is if I go back to my Dennis O'Brien example of earlier on, and if I, again, put in my date of birth to get the correct Dennis O'Brien that I'm looking for, and if I select my 12 here, you can see that a toggle has come up here, select all 12 people in these results for due diligence. If I click on that particular button, it'll tell me, okay, I've got a due diligence report and I've got all 12 people. And these are the categories that it's going to check. It's going to check for judgments, bankruptcies, corporate restrictions, high court cases, revenue compliance, insolvencies, examinerships, receiverships, liquidations, central bank sanctions. Okay. If I create that report, it'll take a couple of seconds, but what this system is going to do now is it's going to go and look at every piece of information that we have on all of the Dennis O'Briens that have come up there, and it's going to go off and it's going to check all the access that we have to the personal insolvency register, the bankruptcy register, the judgments register. It's also going to do a courts.ie check for any litigation that might exist for that particular person, and it just pops it up there. And if you've ever had to go onto courts.ie to look at litigation, you can appreciate the time saving that we've just achieved. So we can see, for example, now this particular report, Dennis John O'Brien, also known as Dennis O'Brien Jr., and Dennis Jr. O'Brien. These are all the known addresses that we have filed in the CRO for this particular person. There's a couple of spelling mistakes in some of the addresses, which is why they come up more than once. The thing about it is that computers are very logical. So unless there's an exact match each time, the computer is going to probably exclude the results. So what we concentrate on is giving you relevant results and allowing the human eye, which is trained to spot that these two addresses here, for example, are the same. You can see, okay, he's got 6 current directorships, 58 previous directorships, 7 previous secretarships, and 2 current shareholdings, 145 high court cases, 2 examinership notices, 4 receiverships, 19 liquidations. Now, these are companies that he has been a director of in the past and are now liquidated or in examinership or in receivership. No unsatisfied judgment, no bankruptcies, no corporate restrictions, no tax defaults, no personal insolvencies, no central bank sanctions. So if I go into the report here, you can see here's a list of all the companies that are active. No unsatisfied judgments, no bankruptcies, no corporate restrictions, no personal insolvency, no debt relief notices, no protective certificates. And then we're into the high court cases. Now, the caveat in the high court cases is we're returning all Dennis O'Brien's. You need to do further investigation to establish whether it's the Dennis O'Brien that you're interested in or not. The information that's held in the High Court, as you probably know, doesn't publish an address or a date of birth, so we're relying on you to do further investigation, but it gives you a very, very quick starting point to put your file together on a new client, on competitors or a client's competitors, or whatever way you're using the due diligence report. But you can see there status of every case has come up, and I guess this is a fairly colorful example to be using, as there's going to be I just want to put this in here, a lot of information there in relation to court cases, so on and so forth. At the very end, then you've got the different companies that are falling foul of company law, so examinership notices, receiver notices, and then liquidation notices, and they're all there. Central bank sanctions goes on to the central bank website as well, just to check that none of the companies he's been a director of or he himself as a director has been sanctioned by the central bank. That's a pretty powerful new feature that we've launched in the last few weeks. In addition to that, I can go in, if I go back into my filter here, if I go back to the Cork example that I gave, where I want to see all the new companies that have established in Cork. So if I go in here, and if I pick my normal companies, I can export those by clicking that export button, and that will pop all of those out into Excel for me. So there's a list of all companies that I'm conscious that we've 5 minutes left, so I'm going to switch over to Q&As now if anybody has any questions. Just see if I can figure this out, how we might do this. No, that's not happening for me. So if I'm just going to show you that Excel report that I downloaded. It's on the other screen. And here it is there. So that's everything. So what you've got is you've got the air code, got the address, company name, company number, status, incorporation date, current director listing. It gives you the number of current directors, previous directors, so on and so forth. So let's close that. Here we go. So if anybody has any questions, I think you need to just raise your hand and I should see you coming up. I'll be able to unmute you and no questions. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I hope you found it useful. You can email us on info@searchforless.ie if you've any questions you want to take with us offline. There's also on the website a little help dialogue here if you want to chat with one of the agents. They're always online. One of the other features that we've added to the site, which isn't visible right now, but you can use this chat feature to request this. Any international searches from any jurisdiction are available now. We're just building the user interface as we speak. But in the meantime, if you have any requirements for international searches, you can engage with an agent here, and they will give you advice on how to get it, and what it will cost, and what you'll get for that particular price. So it's a bit of an iterative process. So other than that, I'm going to sign off, and thank you for your time this morning. I think we're running another session tomorrow if any of your colleagues who couldn't make it today are interested, and we'll keep the sessions going until we get a pretty decent penetration of users in KPMG. So please let your colleagues know if you think it's useful for them to know. If you think it's useless, let us know and we'll change the format. Thanks very much.